Hey, what's up guys? So in this video we are going to create this torn or flip style t-shirt design inside Affinity Designer. Now if you are interested in that, let's get started. Now before I go into creating this design, I want to show you this design on Amazon that I really like, and we are going to use it as a reference so that we know how it looks, this ripped kind of like strands of fabric or whatever you want to call that. Will be coming back to this thing continuously during this process so that we know that we are creating something that looks realistic, and it also looks good on a white t-shirt design. And yeah, that's all for now, and let's get started with creating the design. So I have my document ready, and in order to create that look I'm going to use this pencil tool. And in the stroke we do not need any kind of much thicker stroke. I think that looks fine, maybe slightly something like that would be fine, and that's all. And we are going to create these type of rough looking thing, like it's kind of like something like that looks like a torn fabric, and something like that. The one thing that you notice is that at the top I have created much more zigzag type of thing, and but towards the bottom I don't have that my extreme zigzag type of style things. Let's just so once you are done with creating the shape, you have to close it, and you have to just make sure that the ending point and the starting point are just at the same thing, at the same location, and it will just close the shape. Then we are going to just make slightly finish it up a little bit so that it looks good. And let's just make these areas some areas less smooth, or maybe slightly like pointed areas, because that's a torn shirt. So yeah, I think that would look like that, any kind of like a pointed area thing. I think this is looking good. And towards the bottom I think we do not need that much thing. We can definitely refine it whenever we want to, if we need it. I think we need to make these things slightly pointed, and the way I am going to converting it into points by just clicking it and then pressing the Alt key and dragging one of the handles. It just converts it into a pointed kind of like area. So yeah, that's this is just the refining process, and you can spend as much time as you like, depending upon your design requirement. Let's just finish up this one. I think I'll just leave it. You get the idea of how you can do it. Okay, so this is our basic shape. Let's just create a few more shapes here and there, and maybe some shapes at the top. Let's just go back to that image on Amazon to see it. So they have two less torn shapes at the top and two slightly bigger shapes at the bottom. So let's just start creating something like that. So here again, using the pen tool, using the pencil tool, let's start by creating this kind of like this thing, and then again we have to zoom in and make sure that it is closed shape. Let's just zoom out a little bit, use the pencil tool to make it a few more shapes here and there. And this whole process is just creating some random stuff and make sure that it looks good. So I'll just finish up the rest of these shapes, and just skip this tutorial to that point now. I think that looks fine, and now we want to make sure that we have a fill color instead of a stroke color. So I'm going to select all of these, and in the appearance panel I'm just going to choose none for the stroke, and for the fill color I'm going to use a black color. It doesn't matter which color you want, but I think this black looks fine. So yeah, it's looking kind of like a rip style area, and now we want is that we want to group them together, and then we can just scale them up as we see fit for our design. I think at this point here, at this location, this would look good. Yeah, this is looking fine. And now we want is to create put some kind of design inside this black area, so that it's kind of feel like something is appearing behind it. So for this example, I'm going to use a flag. So I have this vector file of a flag. You don't have to use vector file, you can use images as well, but I prefer to work in the vector. So I'm just going to copy this flag and paste it inside our document, and then just scale it up and make sure that it fills area. Now this particular flag is pretty big, and we need to make sure that we have these red areas around the edges as well. So we might have to shrink our this tone design, and let's just make sure that it is behind it, and we can then shrink our tone design. And that's the beauty of using these vector things, because you can definitely create it. I think I like it as it, but let's just create a copy of it so we do not mess with our proportions, and just place it at the behind and then lock it. So I want to maybe stretch it a little bit, and something like that. That would look good. Okay, that looks fine. And yeah, this is looking okay. Okay, now what we want is that we want the flag to appear inside our this design element instead of behind it. And in order to do that, we will need to create a mask on our flag. But before we do that, we need to copy our this actual element, this tone elements. So by pressing Ctrl J, which we need to use to create shadows. So in order to do that, that create the mask, let's just hide this top one. So what I'm going to do is that bring this group layer, this tone areas, and make it a mask as soon as it appears on our. You can see on the document that our only the flag area is kind of appearing inside our that tone area. We're going to release it, and it has created a mask on it. Now in order to create that those shadows area, something like that, either you can create a gradient rectangle and create a shadow, or you can use this tone copy that we have just created. So let's just use this one. I'll also show you how you can use that gradient effect as well. So I'll just use this group area and make sure and make it a child of our flag, not the mask but a child. In order to do that, we're going to bring it down, and as soon as in the layers panel you see half of this bluish area like that, and in the document you see everything black, then it means that it is a child now. So we're just going to release it, and our flag is hidden because our group is at the top. So don't worry about it. We will select go inside the group and select everything that we have just created, and instead of fill color we're going to use a stroke color. So I'll just cancel any kind of fill color, and for the stroke we can just simply go to the group so that we can easily change later on. So I'll select the group itself and then use a stroke color. So in the stroke we are going to use black color, and the width we are going to use a very heavy width here. So let's just use a very heavy stroke width here. So in the cap option we do not really have, it doesn't matter because it is inside our the mask, but in the this alignment offer, we make sure that it is aligned to stroke at the center instead of inside or outside. It should be at the center. And now in order to create that slightly 3D style of look, what we need to do is move this group layer, this lines layer slightly down. So I'll just press the down arrow key to move it slightly downwards, and as you can see that our top area has a thicker stroke as compared to the bottom area, and we can fix adjust it according to our requirements, make it slightly less like that, and then move it slightly maybe a little bit higher. Yeah, so it is now giving you that kind of like a 3D look where the top area has lower shadow and the bottom areas of these things have a less shadow, smaller shadow. Now it might not look kind of like that thing that we wanted, at the moment because it is on a plain area, but it would definitely look good on a t-shirt design once it is on that thing. So this is looking pretty fine, and this is for, as you can see, for the lighter color t-shirts. For the darker color t-shirts, you might want to change this area, this black, into a white kind of thing, or any other thing that you might want. And one thing more, you can see that here it is, the stroke is pretty sharp, and if you want to make it soft like a shadows type of thing, what you can do is that go inside that group in which you have created this stroke and choose the FX panel, and in that choose this Gaussian blur, and maybe choose slightly something like that. That totally depends upon you what type of look you want to get. That's one way to make it soft, or have a shadow. So you can see that our picture at the behind is looking pretty bright and standing out from the rest of the thing. And it totally depends on you if you want it or not. If you want it to be slightly darker, kind of like a shadowy look, what you can do is that create a rectangular thing that covers everything, and make sure that in the color you have this option of gradient. So we are going to create a gradient on it, and maybe slightly grayish edges, and center should be white, and this one should also be slightly maybe grayish, something like that. And in the fill we might want to make sure it is from top to the bottom instead of left to right. So I'll just shift these, and this location, I think that looks fine. I think this is looking fine. And if you want to change the gradient maybe slightly more towards the edges, you can do it. And once you can create, after creating this gradient, what you can do is to convert it into a multiply thing, and you have this very subtle darkish area at the top and the bottom instead of pretty bright area. So this is how you can create this t-shirt design, this rip style t-shirt design inside Affinity Designer. You're not limited to the flags. You can use sports theme and Halloween themes. Anyone maybe create a kind of a monster eye to it. And the example that I want to show you here on Amazon, let's go back to the Amazon. So this is another example in which you can create kind of like an animal thing that is coming out of the thing. You have these slightly border areas around it, which you can definitely create more detail as you want. But the basic concept is this thing. This is how you can create this strip style thing stuff inside Affinity Designer. Now you might see that there are certain smooth edges, which will definitely not something that you want. So you make sure that you work on it and make these edges slightly pointed. But for the purpose of this tutorial and to keep it short, I have just used as a smooth, but you can make them pointed edges. So there is certain white area here in the flag. If I want to use the same thing on another flag or another thing, let's just open up a UK flag. So this flag has less white area and more of the colored area. We are going to select it, copy it, and then paste it inside our document at the top. And let's just scale it up a bit so that it covers the maximum area here. I think that looks fine. And now the only thing that you have, if you want to shift your design on any other element or any other graphic for any other t-shirt, what you can simply do is that you move this mask that is in that layer and move it at the top on another element, and the rest of the elements that we have created, this shadow effect and this outline effect, you can also move them up and make them a child of it. And let's just hide this Canadian flag, and you can just definitely move it on any other graphic or any other thing and create multiple versions of the same thing for your t-shirt and scale up your business. So hopefully you have found this tutorial to be helpful. If so, make sure that you like the video. It will help me with the YouTube algorithm, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video, and thank you for watching.